Singapore has quietly made it nearly impossible for people from certain countries to enter. Here are 10 nations now facing the toughest restrictions. And why? 10. Nigeria. In recent years, Singapore's immigration officers have been on high alert when processing Nigerian applications. One major reason is the rise in false documents, things like forged bank statements, altered passports, or fake job offers. These problems didn't appear out of nowhere. Multiple incidents over the years have made Singapore more suspicious, and what used to be a simple application is now a detailed investigation. It's not just about paperwork either. Authorities have also connected certain organized crime groups to Nigeria in their investigations. While the majority of Nigerians are completely law-abiding, the actions of a small number have affected the entire country's reputation in Singapore. Another factor? The two countries don't have strong diplomatic ties. Without that relationship, it's harder to resolve visa disputes or speed up processing. So, Singapore's response has been to simply filter harder and reject more. For many Nigerians who once dreamed of visiting, the process now feels like hitting a brick wall. 9. Bangladesh. There was a time when Bangladesh and Singapore had a steady labor relationship. Thousands of Bangladeshi workers were employed in construction and shipyard jobs across the city-state. But things began to change when immigration officials noticed overstaying problems. Some workers entered legally on short-term passes but stayed beyond their allowed period or worked illegally. On top of that, Singapore's security agencies have arrested a few radicalized individuals from Bangladesh who were allegedly planning extremist activities. These cases were rare, but they were enough to change the entire immigration approach. Now, Bangladeshi travelers, even genuine tourists or business visitors, face tougher screening and slower approvals. And since Singapore's demand for foreign labor from Bangladesh has decreased, there's less political motivation to make entry easier. What was once a well-traveled route between the two nations has become a long and difficult road. 8. Pakistan. Singapore's relationship with Pakistan has never been particularly close, but in recent years it's become noticeably colder. One ongoing problem is document forgery. Singapore's immigration database has flagged numerous cases where Pakistani applicants submitted fake or altered travel papers. This pattern has damaged trust, and now even fully genuine applications can get stuck in long verification delays. Security concerns are another factor. Singapore works closely with global intelligence networks, and reports about extremist group members using fake identities to travel have made officials extra cautious. Without deep diplomatic engagement between the two countries, there's no fast-track channel for Pakistanis to get around these barriers. The result? Many feel like Singapore has quietly shut its doors to them. 7. North Korea. It's honestly one of the most closed-off nations in the world, and Singapore has taken steps to make that distance even greater. In 2021, North Korea actually shut down its embassy in Singapore. That move basically cut off all official communication channels between the two countries. Without an embassy, North Koreans have no local support to process visas or address legal issues. Singapore is also a strong supporter of United Nations sanctions against Pyongyang, which include banning North Korean workers, freezing bank accounts, and preventing suspicious business transactions. The fear of money laundering and illegal trade plays a big role here, especially since Singapore's global financial reputation is something it fiercely protects. These measures make it almost impossible for any North Korean, even for diplomatic or business reasons, to enter Singapore. The border isn't just closed, it's sealed. 6. Yemen. The country has been trapped in a devastating war for years, and that instability has made it nearly impossible for its citizens to travel freely. One major problem is document verification. In a war-torn country, it's really hard to confirm whether a passport is genuine, or if the issuing authority is even still functioning. For Singapore, that uncertainty is a deal-breaker. There's also the issue of asylum risk. Singapore doesn't have a refugee program, but it's very cautious about travelers who might try to stay illegally to escape conflict back home. On top of that, authorities have linked some individuals from Yemen to fraud and identity-forging networks in Asia. While most Yemenis are innocent, these cases have been enough to close Singapore's doors. 5. Syria. The ongoing conflict there has destroyed much of its governmental infrastructure. For Singapore, that means passport and background checks are unreliable. Since the city-state takes border security extremely seriously, it prefers to avoid situations where identity can't be fully confirmed. That alone has put Syria on the do not admit list. Another big factor is the concern over extremist fighters traveling under false identities. Several global intelligence reports have flagged this possibility, and Singapore's policy is to block any potential risk before it happens. Singapore also doesn't offer asylum, so the possibility of Syrians seeking refuge there adds another layer of caution. In practice, almost all Syrian applications are denied. 4. Afghanistan. The situation there shifted dramatically when the Taliban came back to power. Singapore, well, it doesn't recognize the Taliban government, which basically means it won't accept any official documents that come from them. Without recognized passports or any embassy to speak up for them, Afghan citizens just can't even start the visa process. And, honestly, security concerns are a huge factor here. The connections between Afghanistan and various extremist groups make Singapore really unwilling to take any risks. Even students or professionals who are just trying to pass through Singapore on their way somewhere else face massive hurdles. To Singapore's immigration system, any uncertainty is pretty much an automatic rejection. 3. Myanmar. The relationship between Myanmar and Singapore took a major hit after the 2021 military coup. Before that, the two countries had, pretty active trade and business exchanges. But when the military took control and cracked down on opposition, Singapore reduced its diplomatic engagement and even froze certain defense deals. Immigration policy changed too. Many Myanmar nationals began experiencing visa rejections or long unexplained delays. Authorities are worried about political instability spilling over and about asylum seekers trying to enter. Since Singapore doesn't grant political asylum, it tightened entry requirements in advance to avoid being put in a difficult position. The result is that for many people from Myanmar, Singapore is now one of the hardest places to get into. 2. Iran. Officially, Iran and Singapore still maintain diplomatic relations. But in practice, travel between the two countries has become, pretty complicated. The main reason is global sanctions linked to Iran's nuclear program. Singapore follows many of these international financial rules, which means extra screening for Iranian individuals and businesses. Authorities worry about possible sanctions evasion, especially when it comes to big financial transactions or sensitive technology exports. Because Singapore's economy depends heavily on its clean global reputation, it refuses to take any risks. This means even completely innocent travelers, tourists, students, business people, can face unexplained delays or outright denials. While there's no public ban, the reality is clear: entry for Iranians is an uphill battle. 1. India. India's place on this list might surprise you because the two countries have strong trade, cultural, and historical links. But the story changed during the global pandemic. When COVID-19 cases surged in India, Singapore placed strict travel bans on Indian arrivals. While this was initially a health measure, the restrictions outlasted the pandemic for many travelers. Later, Singapore tightened its criteria for work visas and employment passes, which especially affected Indian tech workers. Many applicants suddenly found themselves rejected despite having similar qualifications to before. This led to public debate. Some accused Singapore of trying to reduce competition for local jobs, while others blamed isolated cases of visa abuse. Singapore's government denied targeting Indians specifically, but statistics showed a significant drop in approvals. Even today, long-term visa approvals for Indians remain more cautious compared to other countries. It's a reminder that even close partners can face unexpected friction. So, for these 10 countries, visiting Singapore is now harder than ever. Do you think this is caution or maybe just overreaction? Let me know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe.